Welcome to Exploregonians Travel Misadventures podcast. I'm your co-host Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
Friends, we got a big one for you.
It's a large telling of our adventure, our wild adventure driving from our home
On the western coast of the United States.
and going very far east.
Almost as far east as we could while being in North America still. We went to Prince Edward Island.
It's wild. It's, I don't know, kind of all over the place, but
Just like us. Listen on, in this episode, we're going to tell you about the longest running annual musical theater production in the world. We talk about potatoes. I give you way too much information about the history of Prince Edward Island,
there's so much information.
including a land bridge. I told Katie all about that. And then we have and I think my brain melted and dripped out of my head. There's also one of my new favorite artists we discovered, who is a Japanese artist who is in Prince Edward Island. So this episode, gear up, put on your favorite little Anne of Green Gables hat, braid your hair, dye it red or black, like happens.
Like little Anne.
Like little Anne, and gear up because we have a very special episode about a very special place this week on Exploregonians.
Enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This episode, we don't have time to dilly-dally. We're not gonna, shoot the crackers all over the floor, like catching up with our dear readers on here. No, we have a lot to talk about because this is episode 25, Prince Edward Island.
PEI, as the cool kids call it.
I had no awareness of PEI. Also, it's not easy to say. PEI.
No, and I think we would be like, oh, we're going to Prince Edward Island, and people would just be like, oh yeah, PEI, blah blah blah, and I was like, no. I said Prince Edward Island.
Ma'am, you don't understand.
Anyway, we drove our car.
Why would you drive your car to? Okay, so geographically, let's get centered. Where is Prince Edward Island at?
Prince Edward Island is the most
small.
Most
It's the biggest small.
it's so far east. It's the eastest
Coast.
but it's not the east. My God. Okay, so whatever. Let's visualize the United States, and you're going east.
But wait,
and then you go up, and you're like, oh, East Coast. But then it's further east than the United States East Coast. That's how far east it is. It's 4 hours ahead of our time. The Oregon coast.
You know what? I think we have really geographically centered everyone who listens to this podcast. I bet they know exactly where we've placed them on the map.
All 5 of you really know what's going on.
Hey, there could be 6. So, right, Prince Edward Island is in Canada. It's the smallest Canadian province. It is, as the name implies, an island. So,
Jordan told me it's smaller than the state of Rhode Island.
So it is smaller than for someone who, might be listening to this, it might not be the brightest. Rhode Island is the smallest U.S. state. It's the smallest United States state.
Great.
So it's itty-bitty.
Great.
It's like 2,100 square miles or something like that. But, it's Canadian, so I don't know, kilometers potato or something. I don't know how kilometers work.
Speaking of potato, we found out PEI is all about potatoes. It's potato country. It's the Idaho of Canada.
It's the island Idaho. Yeah, and we also didn't know that. We came over, and the first thing, I expected to see a bunch of Anne of Green Gables stuff because that is where that book is from. But no, the first signs we see is promoting taters.
And then we felt right at home, this is going to be a good trip.
Did you say potato?
Jordan loves potato.
Okay, my body, if you were to I don't know, I'm not a scientist.
Slice you open?
Yeah, if you were to slice me open, instead of reading the rings as normal humans do, you read the rings of a human to see their age.
Old,
yeah.
Right.
It's just potatoes. It's mashed potatoes would spill out of me, and probably a lot of French fries.
This is grossing me out.
When I was in college, I had an economics professor who was talking about something. He's like, "Yeah, if you're a poor person, odds are you're probably going to eat more potatoes." And I was sitting there like, I was like, hey, don't say that. My family, we grew up on potatoes. I had a potato every single night of the week. And then the class got quiet, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm the poor guy.
Aww.
So, Potato Island is what Prince Edward Island is. It's a funky shape. It's kind of like a big kind of Cheshire cat smile.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very long. It's a longer island. It's wider than it is tall.
Wow, we're really doing a great job.
Well, I sound like a real smart person. Have you ever thought about traveling? Okay, so Prince Edward Island. It was not an island as of 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years. You don't sound unimpressed by this. You didn't look this up.
I am impressed.
You had no idea until now.
I'm learning with all of you.
If you didn't know, Prince Edward Island was connected to the landmass of Canada by a land bridge until 5,000 years ago. I don't know if it's 5,000 years exactly, or if it's like, ish. We rounded up or down.
A land bridge?
A land bridge. It's what I have. Whatever. So, yeah, there was a strip of land, a peninsula, that connected it to the mainland. And
just imagine, like, peninsula and not land bridge. Is that a term we use?
Yeah, that's literally how, like, native people got into the Americas, was by a land bridge that connected Russia to Alaska. They weren't called Russia and Alaska then. It was a land bridge. Or was it an ice bridge? I imagine it was a land bridge.
It was a connection.
Someone's going to arrest me.
Man, you are not coming to this podcast for the facts.
No, you're going here for the stories and for misinformation.
All right, let's move on.
Welcome to Exploregonians, the misinformation travel podcast.
Okay, so where are we at? We're on the land bridge.
We are not on a land bridge because it no longer exists. Sea levels changed, wiped out the land bridge, but there were native people there. And so those people, they would roam around the island with the seasons. Most of Prince Edward Island was like dense forest, and we did see some remnants of that, but for the most part, Prince Edward Island seemed pretty industrialized for the most part, pretty
agriculture.
I got a word.
Area.
It seemed colonized.
Mm-hmm.
Because the native people, who we now recognize as the native people, and by we, I
First
imagine
Nation.
Canadian. Well,
no? Or are there different? Okay.
It's the Mi'kmaq people. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it's the Mi'kmaq people, and that is the nation who are the native people to Prince Edward Island, and they traditionally, they did not hundreds and thousands of years ago call this place Prince Edward Island.
Well, right.
The most common term for it was Ibi-Kwik, which stood for. It translates to either resting on the waves or something lying in the water.
Oh, great. I'm happy you told me this after.
Something lying in the water sounds like sea monsters.
Well.
Or sharks.
I mean, again, you already referenced that Green Gables takes place there.
And is a famous shark thriller.
So it's a very, it sparks imagination.
So some more facts, since we're doing the facts of Prince Edward Island right now.
I see
in terms of the in terms of the latitude, we got a shout out on tourismpei.com. Not you and I.
I was like, you and I? Wow.
They said
that's right, you guys. We got a shout out, but by saying we got a shout out, Jordan was not talking about he and I.
I was talking about the people of Northern Oregon because they said that the latitude is similar to that of Northern Oregon.
Oh.
And also Southern France. So I don't know how that, because when I think of like the south of France, I think of like Mediterranean climate. That might just be because of the Mediterranean.
Have you been?
To the south of France? I've been near the south of France.
Have you been to the south of France? Can you speak on that?
Can you speak French?
Can you speak on climate?
I cannot.
Comparison?
I cannot speak on climate comparison, no. Moving on.
More facts. Let's go.
We're on the east coast of Canada, as Katie said, 4 hours ahead of us.
That's right. I dropped that knowledge.
In Oregon, we're in Pacific Standard Time. And so, when you think of something far away in America, you think of it'll be 3 hours ahead. That's the East Coast time. That's New York. Other things, DC.
Nope, New York.
It's just New York time. So, yeah, it was very strange because we were driving into another time zone. And so as we're driving, we just kept losing hours as we were doing this road trip to Prince Edward Island. And so we thought...
I mean, how long did it take us? A week?
A week plus 4 hours.
Well, that's true. I had like a migraine this whole time. It's like the migraine from hell. It just wouldn't stop all the way from Oregon to Prince Edward Island.
That's terrible.
It was.
We had talked about flying into Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, which is the capital of that province. Again, it's the smallest Canadian province.
No direct flights.
No, there was a layover.
Yeah, you had the layover in...
I think it was mostly Toronto. Or Montreal's closer, but...
Anyway, the point is we didn't do it, and we're like, no, we're not doing a flight. We're going to drive.
So let's get into it. So why did we go to Prince Edward Island?
Well, are we doing the facts? Are we done?
Hey, we can't rewind. Well, I could do some more facts. Okay, it's situated on the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So we're kind of like in the Atlantic Ocean, but we are in the Gulf still. And the water was pleasant. More things. It was officially named Prince Edward Island in 1799. The French had come in like the 1500s and settled there. But because of like how dense the forests were, like usually any land that was being colonized, occupied, whatever, they didn't go too much farther from the shore. And then in the late 1700s, who showed up but the Brits? I kind of think it was like Isle Saint John or something like that is what the French had named it. The Brits showed up. They were like, "No, this is not the Isle Saint John. This is the Saint John's now.
What is
Isle
this?
Saint John's.
What is this?
This
accent?
is my British accent because I'm an action hero. So here come the Brits." And then they like forcibly removed the people, the French Francophone people, and quote unquote deported them. Yeah. And the tourism website said that it was like a travesty that had happened, that this went down. And so people were able to come back after a while, but I think a lot of these residents like took shelter in the forest or found other ways. But yeah, the Brits were like, "Yeah, out of here."
Well, this is a downer.
So in 1799, they decided to rename it, just get rid of the St. John's thing, because there's a lot of St. John's names. Like that's like a Newfoundland and Labrador name. There's one of those in New Brunswick. It was just a lot of St. John's coming around.
Popping up.
So they named it after Prince Edward. And do you know who Prince Edward is the daddy of?
Do I know who Prince Edward is the daddy of? Wouldn't you know? I do not know.
He eventually was the father of Queen Victoria.
Oh, you know what? I did know.
Oh, hey, look at you. So that was when the official name change happened. Charlottetown also was it was like the birthplace of the Confederacy, and so they had held some conference there, and they had representatives from the other British colonies to decide whether or not they wanted to like form and unify a country and create Canada. And so that happened in 1864. And ultimately, they did, like, the group was like, "Yeah, let's make Canada." And then Prince Edward Island was like, "Actually, you guys do that. We're going to be on our own over here." And so Prince Edward Island did not join for like 6 years. And there was something like the railroads were happening. And I think Prince Edward PEI was in like a lot of debt. And so I think like a deal was struck. They're like, "Hey, if you join Canada, that debt's gone.
And we'll grow the potatoes.
Tater Island."
There we go.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all my my Prince Edward Island. Hey,
I
can give you population. So, Prince Edward Island, population of about 154,000, and Charlottetown around 30,000.
I mean, have we given you this much information on any other place?
I am fairly excited about Prince Edward Island.
It was an exciting place. Okay, let's go back to why. Why did we drive to Prince Edward Island?
I really didn't want to drive to Prince Edward Island.
You definitely did not.
Cross-continental road trip wasn't on my bucket list. I mean, it sounded fun in theory, but I was like, that sounds like it's pretty scary.
Oh my God.
I think I was just neurotic. I was like car neurotic. I'm like, you could put me on a plane, drop me off anywhere in the world, and I'll like make use of public transit, or we'll hitchhike or something. But like having our car just felt like such a liability. And I felt this on our first road trip around the western states. Like, as soon as we got into, like, I don't know, New Mexico, I was like, we're pretty far from home, Katie. What happens if the car has an issue? And it sounds like we're driving like a 1992 Taurus or something.
Sometimes I think this is internal dialogue. Because, I'm having a great time. I never doubted our car. And I was like, in worst case scenario, we'll find a way.
That's nice.
But yeah, I remember you kind of talking about like, oh my God, what are we going to do if we're like driving a million hours? And I was like, I don't know, stop every couple hours and like get out and walk around or do something. Like,
well, okay, so it was like, it wasn't a
Nope.
super peaceful drive to Prince Edward Island.
Because why wasn't it a super peaceful drive?
Out of the two of us, it was because of me?
Okay, I'll tell you why. It's because I wanted to leave early. So here we go. The reason we were going to Prince Edward Island is because growing up, I loved the book Anne of Green Gables, and I guess that's why we're bringing it up. And so that book, the author is from Prince Edward Island, and there is an annual Anne of Green Gables musical.
This Anne of Green Gables musical in 2014, Guinness World Records awarded it or recognized it as the longest running annual musical theater production in the world.
That's right. And Jordan and I love a musical. And had I made you read the book at that point?
We had read the book. I think we're a couple chapters away from finishing it. But we would read it aloud to each other. And by we, I'm going to say it was like 80% me.
I'm going to say it was 80% you too. But
because I do the voices so well.
You do. It was hard to keep up.
Oh, Marilla.
I read that book as a child and like watched the little
miniseries?
The miniseries, I guess. And then I don't know, like a handful of years ago, I think it was during COVID, I picked up the book and reread it and I was like, oh,
this holds up.
I know, it holds up. I was like, I really enjoyed it and I thought Jordan would enjoy it also, and so
she was right.
I made him read it out loud to me.
It does. I want an audiobook, but I want it in your voice.
Anyway, and so it was like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to like go to Prince Edward Island and then we could go watch this musical? And
earlier in that summer, we had talked about, because we went in 2024, which if you're listening to it in 2025, this was last year. If you're listening to this in 2026, that was 2 years ago. Wow. 2027, 3. So you had talked about flying in there because this festival, this like run of the stage show was only from like June 19th until late August.
Right.
And so we were like, my birthday's in late June. So we were like,
oh my God, we could do this for your birthday. And like, no. And then like every few days you'd come up with all these reasons why we shouldn't do it. And so it was a big no. And then the clock was ticking. We literally left like the last possible day that we could make it while I think, did we average 8 hours a day of driving? Anyway, the point is it was a stressful drive of like, okay, here's the math. We have to drive this much to make it this far and blah, 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 because we made it to Prince Edward Island, the very last show of this musical production, with an hour to spare, like before the show started.
Yeah.
Or we thought it was an hour.
Well,
somebody got the time wrong.
Well, that means, okay, we addressed in Bay City. I have a confidence issue. I was sure the show started at 7:30. And so we were like, kind of putzing around. We parked. We were near the theater. We kind of walked by and we saw the sandwich board. We took a picture.
And there was a ton of people going in. We're like, oh, it seems kind of busy. I guess people are just excited.
Yeah, they're here so early for the last show.
Right.
And then we looked and I think you were like, babe, I think this says 7, not 7:30. And I was like, 7? It's 7:30. I'm a man.
Anyway, the show ended up being in 15 minutes. We're like, oh my God. But then we're like, oh, we just got here. We drove so far. We need a coffee or something. So we run to a coffee shop, caffeinate really quick.
Our barista is like an aspiring drag queen. They were a delight.
I don't think aspiring. I think...
Well, okay, they were a drag queen. They were also like 12 years old. I mean, they were very young. So, I mean, I feel like they probably weren't like established.
Well, that's probably true.
So.
Well, anyway, so.
Chugged our coffee.
Made it back into the theater like 4 minutes before the production started. and had a great time.
We're trying to tell people, like, we just got here from Oregon. Go to sit down. And yeah, the show was good. It was a lot.
It was fun. It was
fun.
It was very fun. You know what? Your nose is in the air because, yeah, at this point now, we've seen so many productions on Broadway.
And they're always Anna Green Gables. It's so weird. We only watch Anna Green Gables anytime we go to New York City now.
Excuse me, when's the next showing of Anna Green Gables?
So the weird thing about this Anna Green Gables show is, like, now instead of it being every year, now they're going every 2 years. And so I do think, like, the ushers, like, everyone was kind of emotional about the fact that they wouldn't see this next year.
Right.
This year.
Right, because I just think it's like a staple. So, like, Anne of Green Gables culture is definitely a thing on the island.
And Anne of Green Gables tourism.
Definitely. It is. It's a big moneymaker for them. And then it happened to be the 150th anniversary
of Lucy Maud Montgomery's birth, the author of Anna Green Gables.
So they were, like, really just celebrating that. And then, of course, we ran into some cruise ships. We're like, what are you guys doing here?
I don't know why. I just feel like cruise ship culture just isn't a thing on the Oregon coast, unless you go to Astoria, which that was also a mind blow.
Right, that was shocking to us. We were like, whoa, you guys. And I don't know, maybe you and I are just kind of, like, oblivious to it. Maybe they're everywhere and we just
we're cruise ship blind. Did you see that cruise ship? I don't know. So yeah, I mean, we were like, there were moments where, like, it seems like really busy and nobody seems like they're from here, but the traffic's not too bad. And then I turned a corner and there it was. I don't know what brand.
I don't know. It was big.
Massive. I mean, there's like a strappy young, like, street urchin drawing a girl, like one of the French girls.
Wow.
Trying to make an oblique.
Wow, that is just too much. But because the cruise ships were in town, then we ran into this, I guess it was like a market, like a farmer's market type situation. And then they had the local band and they were playing fun, like, community band, I guess.
It was definitely a community band.
But they were like, yeah, we're here doing it for the cruise ships. But I mean, they had some hits.
They were playing the theme song from, like, the 60s Spider-Man, which I think we played in, like,
I was not in pep band.
No,
like,
it wasn't
volunteer.
a pep band song. It was, I think we played it in 8th grade.
It was a concert band?
Yeah. No, 8th grade. 8th grade. 8th grade!
You played Spider-Man in 8th grade.
Yeah, because we had that kind of talent. So, shout out to Mr. John Coughlin. So we were playing.
8th grade?
Yeah, 8th grade.
I thought Mr. Hammond did 8th grade.
He left.
Ooh.
This is one of the issues that Mr. Coughlin and I had, because I was like, I felt betrayed and I blamed Mr. Coughlin.
Oh, I see.
And I'm not correct in that. That was not cool of me. Anyway, Mr. Coughlin was trying. He had an absolute monster playing the tuba of me. I was a bad kid. Anyway, we played, like, a bunch of songs from classic cartoons. We played Spider-Man.
Okay, well, that makes sense why you're playing Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was trying to appease me. Anything for this psycho kid. All right, psycho kid, are you happy yet? So the last movement of this piece in this, cartoon theme song thing was, like, the ending of Looney Tunes, where it's like, you have a look of you not knowing anything what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying. I think I'm just, like, surprised that we're going down this rabbit hole.
John Coughlin pulled out a slide whistle during the concert. Nobody expected it, but yeah, John Coughlin just goes, pew! And I lost it. I think that's when we started to connect.
That's when you fell in love.
I fell in love. I got on one knee, pulled out my grandmother's wedding ring, and I said, John Coughlin, will you marry me? And he said, absolutely not. Get out of here, you psycho.
We're going to just stop this, and then now everybody knows.
So,
what were we even talking about?
We're talking about Anna Green Gables, of course. So that farmer's market with the community band, like, they were creating, like, really nice ambiance. They were under, like, a gazebo. There was, like, this kind of walking path around the park they had set up in.
Right, it was beautiful, and it's, like, right on the water. You have a really nice view, except for the cruise ship, which I guess was fine, but I mean, it was a little distracting.
There was this, again, no free pub, but we saw this one person at the farmer's market. Their company was called Jercules, and they were selling jerky with like a vaguely, like, Hercules brand, but they had this enormous pixelated logo. It looked like it was done in MS Paint of, like, it was like Gaston wearing a skirt, but it was, like, black pixelated Jercules.
Jercules
Hilarious.
was only one of many. I think PEI definitely had a lot of personality. I think there was a lot of like fun art that we saw, and speaking of which, we went to the world famous Cow's Creamery.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know this was a thing. We were like, oh, cute, just like a little ice cream parlor.
You had watched a video kind of about cows when we were thinking about flying into Charlottetown.
Man, well, I blocked it out.
You didn't remember cows at all? They were like, oh, one of the things you do in downtown is go to cows.
Well, okay. I guess I did.
Who's driving their car so fast?
I think I do remember. But like, I didn't realize how big it was. Like that this is something we could probably pick up in British Columbia.
Oh, right.
And so it is from Prince Edward Island, right?
Indeed.
And it just like it's where it all started. And so we learned a lot.
In the 80s, right? That's what I got out of it.
It's been around, and they're like, yeah, we do ice cream, but what we're really passionate about is graphic t-shirts that are parodies. They do parody shirts, and they are whatever you are thinking about. They are so much more. There are so many, and they are done extremely well. Very
They have this
cheeky.
like basic foundation of like, it's almost like clip art of a cow. Like it looks like something I would be able to draw.
I mean, it's like your typical, it kind of reminds me of like the art style of like 90s, early 2000s Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. No, Cartoon Network.
But very basic.
Very basic. It's definitely Holstein cows.
And you as a Jersey girl, I think took a little bit of offense to that.
I know. It's not my preferred, but I accept. Anyway, so we got basic cow, and then what? And then we have like basic cow and like Star Wars, basic cow and was there Lego? I don't even know, like Harry Potter and
any property you can think of, Cows has done a parody of it. And it's so big that at this point they have like a tiny like little font on the side that says like, this is a parody. I mean, they had one, it was like they'll either put in the word cow or moo somewhere in there. So it's like tat mooing, and it's a picture of a cow looking at two setting suns,
which is a Star Wars reference for those of you not on that.
They also had Darth Maul, and so it was a picture of Darth Maul, the villain from Episode 1, Phantom Menace, as a cow.
Star Wars. Okay, this is all. Can we get a non-Star Wars?
How about the Moondalorian? It was the Mandalorian. Oh, that's Star Wars. Dang it! There was X-Cows, and so it looked like the 90s X-Men, but they were all cows, and they were all cosplaying as X-Men.
Was it Harry Mooter?
I don't think it was Harry Mooter. Harry Utter, but I don't know.
No.
Was it Harry?
This is why we're not doing the parody shirts.
No. They had some deep cuts. They had an elf one from the Star Wars Elf, where it's a joke.
No.
Cotton-headed Ninny Moogans was one. There was one of like Bob Ross. They had one of Magnum P.I. because I guess that's a big thing in Canada. There was so many. There was a Loki one, but it was Mookie.
Anyway, what we're saying is it's worth checking out, looking into.
And the ice cream was all right.
It was fine.
We were sold a cheese. That was pretty good, though.
We did buy a pretty good cheese. Yeah, Cow's Creamery. If you were in Canada, you should check it out. And you're probably in Canada, you probably already know about this. And you're like, yeah, Cow's, iconic.
They did have like a cheese that they were like starting to do, and it was pretty good. We have been home from this road trip since mid-October 2024, and we still have it like in the fridge. We should probably not good anymore, and that's sad.
Wait.
We have some of that cheese in the fridge.
The good cheese?
The cow's cheese.
What?
Yeah.
Why didn't we eat it?
Well, we ate most of it, and I guess we gave up.
Well, I can't eat this whole thing.
Oh my God. Okay.
So when we went to the flagship Cows location, and their art style was like white and yellow, it was kind of the vibe going on.
Yeah.
We went in and they had a visitor center. It had like a visitor center. We thought we'd see more like production, more like the history or like the why this exists.
Totally. It was like we walked in, we were ready to learn and be like, where's the cat? What's going on here?
And we watched the video, and I wish I just recorded the video because it's not present anywhere on social media, YouTube that I could find. But it just turned into like a mockumentary of this. I don't know if he was the CEO. I don't know if he was like the CFO. I don't know what he was. He just started doing a mockumentary where he was acting like old washed up rock stars, being like, yeah, here we are, cows, and we all of a sudden thought that what we needed to start doing is t-shirts. And then instead of talking about the product, they just started talking about their parody t-shirts. And that's all they talked about in this video was their t-shirts. Instead of seeing like any sort of like factory work or cheese, they were like, and here's our print shop.
Yeah, so that was an unexpected twist. Also, I don't know, this seems like free pub. You know what I mean, Horton?
Yeah, cows. You need to sponsor us now, cows. I'd like
and
another
we won
shirt.
some shirts.
Oh, well, I had the screen printing shop do a cow's shirt for me, and it was Star Wars. And I thought it should say Star Cows, right? That makes sense. Star Cows. Instead, it says Cow Wars, which is, I think, gives you a very different visual of what that property could be. Like, if I say Star Cows, like, that sounds kind of like Star Trek, but maybe with cows, or they're discovering cows. Cow Wars sounds like they were like rival farms.
And you bought it.
I did buy it.
And he wears it.
I had it custom printed for me.
Before we skip town. All right.
It's also a little tight on my pudgy body. So, Cow's Creamery. Delicious. So, I want to talk more about everything Anne of Green Gables in just a minute. But before, I want to talk about when we first got to PEI. So, we park. We don't have a place to stay. We have a campsite that we decided to go to. And we didn't have time to set up our tent. So, I mean, it is dark. It is late when we have to go set up our tent. But when we left the theater that night, we went back to our car. And as we walked back to our car, there was like this group of like rowdy, probably fairly drunk young people. And by young people, probably our age or a little bit younger. But they were jamming to Eye to Eye from a Goofy movie, which I thought was hilarious. And so I like turned around and like engaged with them. And they're like, oh my God, you know that. And then we started chatting and told them we were from Oregon. They're like, oh my God, Oregon. And then they wanted to go hang out with us or like go karaoke. And I do regret not going and hanging out with them more, but we definitely needed to go and get our camp situation figured out.
Aw.
I know. The partiers from that one night, after we didn't go party with them, they were like, well, come to our pizza place. And gave us the name of the pizza place.
We'll give you a free pizza.
They said to give us free pizza. And we did it, but they had sobered up and they're like, oh, you guys didn't think you'd come.
That's right.
But
did you say a free pizza?
And then I was like, pizza? Definitely wanted to do that. And I was very excited.
Something we didn't talk about, too, was you were talking about the land bridge that isn't there anymore.
It's not.
But now there is a bridge that was recently built.
By recently, probably like 10 years, maybe 15. I
And-
don't know time.
I mean, so it's just this like super long, right over the water, beautiful bridge that connects.
And it connects to Iowa.
Good one.
Say it.
Hordan.
Hordan. Don't be nervous. Say the nickname you gave me
Well,
back in 2013.
You told me you didn't like it.
Well, it's just, Hordan. I don't know.
It's Jordan with a Spanish flair.
Hordan. Anyway, so, right. Where does that bridge connect to?
To, I was going to say Nova Scotia. Nope. Nope.
What is it?
New Brunswick.
New Brunswick.
Which everyone told us when we were in New Brunswick that it was moose country and we were 1,000% going to see moose.
Moose country as in the, 15 kilometers from the bridge west of that area. And so
Right, and they were like, oh, there's always moose. Always, just everywhere. Anyway, didn't see
moose.
one.
Nope.
None.
Zero.
Anyway, it's not what this episode's about. So
Yeah, moose. So get out of here unless you're sponsoring.
But yeah, if you drive, nice. Even if you fly in and you're like taking, get a rental car.
We found out the beautiful thing about taking this bridge, it is free to go over from New Brunswick. It is a free bridge to get onto Prince Edward Island.
Mm-hmm.
But to leave Prince Edward Island,
it's not a free bridge.
You have to pay every single time to leave that island, whether it's by sea, by land / man-made construction, or to fly.
Was it $50?
50 Canadian dollars, which is like what, $5-6 US?
Probably like $200 now.
Yeah. So when we're at this farmer's market, we're going around, we start talking to this girl, and she's like, "Oh, I'm from New Brunswick." She didn't talk like that. But she was, selling gems and jewelry and things like that. She said every Saturday she pays that toll.
Yeah, and we were surprised by that. And disappointed that the island hadn't worked out some kind of deal to these vendors that were, I don't know. It just seems like, we could do like $20 or
like a reduced fare.
Anyway, nope.
$50
every time.
That's crazy. I mean, she must have been doing pretty all right to, make that happen. Because I don't know,
true.
To break even on that would really suck.
And something I didn't realize as a total side is that this is a part of the cruise ships, right? Like, you have to be like, not just pay for your cruise. I mean, I think you got to be packing cash because they're making all these stops for you to go shopping. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I think they do that in Astoria too. Everybody's got a market, and they're like, "Hey, bring your cash."
I know. So when we were staying on Prince Edward Island, we were there not quite a week. I think we were there maybe like 5 days, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice. So we ended up staying on like the north part of the island for, I think that's the only place we stayed in was like the north central.
Right.
Probably like 25-minute drive from Charlottetown. So where we stayed, we had pretty easy access to like the beaches that were up there. So we went up to Brackley Beach, I think it was called.
I think Brackley Beach sounds right.
But they kind of said Brackley, so I was like, Broccoli Beach?
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Brockley Beach, and when we were there, we found out it was actually part of like the Canadian National Park System.
Mm-hmm.
And we've addressed on this show that I now have like a soft spot for the national parks in general. I'm like, did you say national park? I'd love to check that out. And I'm going to say, I think the American National Park logo is very good, but the Canadian one, it's so clean. It's just that little beaver, the maple leaf. It's very good. So we go, and it was like the last day that they charged admission to go to the national park or to be in this area. And
right, so it was just going to be free for the season.
Yeah, so then it was free forever after that. So we got there like, 10 minutes after, serendipitously. So we're like, oh, sweet.
Right, I feel like we watched them leave, close up shop. We're like, I guess we're good.
So that was pretty cool. And they had like a really cool boardwalk that went out to the beach. These like red sand beaches that were pretty spectacular. So it was this huge boardwalk. It was really pretty. But then at the bottom, we got down there off of this like boardwalk thing. They had this giant plastic tote that was like a beach toy library for kids. It was like, it was the most Canadian thing. It was like, play with your toys and bring them back.
Totally. I was like, this is a great idea. And, and part of it's probably even like lost and found, where it's like, oh, hey, somebody left their little sand shovel, put it in here. And yeah, it was a great idea. And people, let's implement this. The communal sandbox. And not sandbox, sand toy, whatever.
But further down at a different beach, they had, like, it was more set up. It was like, they had designed a sign and had stuff up there, but they had books and beach toys.
Yeah.
That was super cool. It was very nice. But when we were there, we had like a photo shoot. I was enjoying the red rocks. We found this like giant, goofy slab of driftwood that we now realize while looking through the pictures earlier that when I put my face in there and Katie took a picture of me, I just looked like a driftwood Jabba the Hutt.
Again, Star Wars reference.
Itapila solo.
I didn't realize this was going to be a Star Wars episode.
That's actually how I'm going to name it for
PEI, Star Wars episode.
Episode 25, PEI.
Yeah, I think being on the beach, it was really beautiful. The water... I don't remember being super cold.
From the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
Yeah, it was pleasant. It
was
wasn't
very
that busy.
calm.
We were there for sunset, but the sun wasn't setting where I was expecting the sun to set.
Sun wasn't setting in the right place.
Nope. And so that was kind of like off-putting. We're like, oh, Toto, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Because on the West Coast, here in Oregon, on our beach, we watched the sun set.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was setting behind us. And I was like, oh no, the world's turned around.
So I feel like we had a really nice time. And then we realized we were hungry.
Very hungry.
Didn't know where we were. We don't know if like the island, like, businesses. We all know touristy areas. I mean, I don't know, coastal living where things just aren't open.
But we ran into like a ranger who was roaming around.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if she just got off and she was just walking on the beach, but at some point we talked to her and then she was like, oh, well, maybe there's this place it's really good down the beach. If you just walk down the beach. Right?
Yeah.
It was like, just keep walking in a place called Richards. And yeah, if they're still open, you should try to go there.
I absolutely was not sold. I was like, beachfront place called Richards? Ma'am, do you know who I am?
Wow. Well, who are you?
I'm Jordan Wolfe. Gastronomical
snob.
Gastronomical snob. I don't think I'm that much of a snob. Katie reminds me that I ate gray pepperoni in college. You didn't even know me in college.
Wow.
That's not true.
That's also not true.
So we don't walk to Richards. I think we Google really quick that it closes soon. And we were like too far away to walk. So we went.
Right. And too hungry not to go.
Hoofed it back to the car. Quickly drove to Little Richards. It's just called Richards. It's called Original Richards.
Original Richards. I don't know. I think we walk up. We weren't sure that they were still open, but I think maybe we
were like 10 minutes out.
Yeah. Nobody was there.
Walk right up, have a really nice time talking to the people, and we're like,
excuse me, but I know that you're closing soon, but we'd really love some food, please, some fare.
Yeah, so I think we got, what do
they specialize in?
They specialize in lobster rolls, which we have never had and didn't know what that was. And it's like this sandwichy thing.
Do not say sandwich. It is in a hot dog bun.
Okay, it's like a hot dog with...
It's a spread eagle hot dog bun.
With lobster...
There's a lobster on that?
And stuff?
Yeah, lobster and stuff.
I don't know what it is, but whatever we had, it was life-changing. It was mind-blowing. It was...
orgasmic.
It was so good. And then that was upsetting because apparently it was very, very uncommon for it not to be busy from open to close. And so the fact that we were able to just walk up was weird because we tried to go back and it was a nightmare.
I mean, probably like 30 people in line. But it was also like lunch-y time when we tried to go back.
But we talked to other people and they were saying that it's always like that. So...
we hit it right. It was so good. And we got to watch. It was just like a beautiful night out there. It was just like the sunset, the colors.
And they didn't kick us out. Like, I think they might have closed up and we just like stayed on the...
Oh, definitely. Just hung out on the patio, eating our lobster.
And our salad and whatever else we got. Everything that we had from them was really good. Anyway, no free pub. This is all about... we should just call this the pub podcast.
Pubcast. So, Richards, if you're listening, well done. It was weird for us being on the West Coast, especially Pacific Northwest, to participate in a lobster community.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had lobster.
Oh, really? No. You had that lobster scone or that lobster thing in Hong Kong Disneyland.
Oh my God.
It was like big old lobster claw. And a scone that you said tasted like what?
I said... what came up for me is it tasted like vomit. I don't know what happened. And it
was a highly acidic scone.
Something was off. Something was not... maybe the cream... maybe it's too much buttermilk. I don't know what happened.
But we did have lobster there. It just felt weird to be having lobster because we're crab country out here. Dungeness crab.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get lobster, like, you know that is not from around here. You're like... I don't know if it's been handled well. God, I sound like such a snob.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah. We had a great time.
It was piled high. It was from here to the clouds. I could have sat on it and gone out to sea.
What?
It was so big. Also, lobster rolls are very expensive. Also, we got one and shared it.
Yeah, we did.
We also got their salads, which was the salads, as expensive the lobster rolls were, the salads were ridiculously affordable.
Yeah, they were very inexpensive and like a really quality salad, which was definitely surprising.
Nice dressing. They were so good that when we were heading out and leaving Prince Edward Island, we got in line. Again, we stood in there for 15 people.
Oh, at least.
And all we did was order 5 or 6 salads.
Yeah, to go.
And they're like, wait, do you want a lobster roll with that?
Nope, just another salad. Put another one up. 7 salads.
So we just had a bag full of salad.
Okay.
Should have got another lobster roll.
We had some pretty good food. I feel like we also had some really good fish and chips.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, it was from the pub.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
we had a lot of good seafood. There was a lot of good seafood and good taters. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, apparently it was super fresh.
Taterland. So finally, when we decided to really venture out toward the epicenter of the Lucy Maud Montgomery, Green Gables area. So that's also, it's like Cavendish. I don't know where we're stressing on that word. So we went into that area. Again, it is like the central northern-ish part of Prince Edward Island, PEI. When we went there, so Lucy Maud Montgomery's birth home is right across the street from a tea room. And it's this old style, I don't know, not quite farmhouse. Like, how would you describe them?
Kind of farmhouse.
Okay, old farmhouses. There's a little tea room next to one. We're like, oh, let's go have afternoon tea there.
Yeah, it's so English.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Here in Canada, because they know that they deport the French.
Mm.
So we thought we were gonna go get like a nice afternoon tea. We made a reservation. The woman sounded a little frantic when we made the reservation.
Right, and it was like kind of exasperated and was like, show up after 3. And we're like, okay,
sure. So we did. There's nobody there. We are just in this person's home, which is quite charming. But yeah, this like tiny woman comes out and she's like, I've been so busy ever since my husband died. We're like, what? No.
And we're like, we don't have to be here. She's like, no, I want to cook for you, whatever you guys want. Anyway, that was Terry. We learned a lot about her.
She had an amazing story. She grew up in Osaka, Japan, and would read Anna Green Gables. And she's growing up in this
in the city.
Yeah, this big metro area of Japan, and she's like reading about this like beautiful pastoral place in Anna Green Gables, and is like, it basically reads as a fantasy novel to her. She's like, wait, this is a real place. Mm-hmm. And so her like life goal was to live on Prince Edward Island.
Right.
So I think they like emigrated to Toronto or something like that. Right. She and her husband.
And eventually made their way there.
Opened that tea room.
Yeah. And so she was living her dream, and it was very sweet. And the food was good. Everything was.
She had found like a recipe for like moon pie or something like that that was in like a diary of Lucy Maud Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it was so interesting because it was like right across the street, so you kind of felt like you were in that that era of Anna Green Gables. But all around her little tea room was this beautiful art. She did this like kind of 3D diorama-esque art that she was selling to people. Mm-hmm. And then she had like a bunch of postcards that was in kind of like a almost Hayao Miyazaki style.
Yeah,
it definitely invoked that
kind of anime, but not like a.
I'm gonna say it was just beautiful Japanese art, and so this Japanese artist had stumbled on the tea room, and their name is Shinya Uchida, and they had all this art that they had done. They wanted to work with Terry to make postcards, but then they donated the money or the funds.
And I think maybe, did they say it was after
the husband died?
The tsunami. I thought it had to do with that as like a fundraiser.
Okay.
No, I'm not sure.
But it also might go toward something on PEI also. Maybe both. Who knows? Okay. Memories. But then there was like this really big piece of art that was definitely not for sale, but this artist had rendered the tea room and all the space around it. And I want that picture.
It's a beautiful picture.
So this artist like definitely loves to draw things that's like caught in the wind. Like that's definitely kind of like the style.
Caught in the wind. It's like whimsical also.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like and I feel like Prince Edward Island is windy, right? It's a windy place.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you have like this animated in the Miyazaki style house with the wind. It was like a bicycle or like a picnic. It like was a really beautiful
and definitely
setting.
like a sun hat with a blue ribbon was also like a calling card in this artist's stuff. So we bought a bunch of postcards from Terry, and then we sent them to our friends and family, these postcards, and we still have a couple that I really enjoy. But that's the tea room, the Blue Winds tea room, if you ever make it there. And Shinya Uchida, if you're listening, I'd love to commission you for a painting sometime. You're very talented. So Anna Green Gables, like the Lucy Maud Montgomery, I think the national park, they had like a national park for that, but it was just called like the Green Gables, like National Heritage Park, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in there, beautiful site, and we saw the actual house that inspired Anna Green Gables.
So yeah, Lucy,
Lucy,
it was like was it her aunt and uncle?
It was like some
or her
relative.
great aunt and uncle. It was like a relative.
So she didn't live there.
No, but she was visiting, and so that's what.
Well, she like lived nearby. Like her home growing up was also like the post office, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she would go to this house, which has Green Gables.
It has Green Gables.
What are the Gables, Katie? Because
the Gables, I don't remember now. It's the hang off on the house. No, Jordan's grandparents like quizzed me.
No, they were like, "Oh, are you able to come paint our
the
gables?"
And I was like, "The gobbles? What are we talking about?"
Kept going to the gobbles. You were hungry for turkey.
Yeah, no, I could not get Gables. And then this is like a later, like, oh, like Anna Green Gables. Anyway, Gables, gobbles.
Gables. So when we were there, they had a bunch of national park employees who were stationed throughout this house, probably to make sure people weren't getting into shenanigans.
Because as we've talked about, it's major tourism. There was definitely tour buses. I'm sure multiple cruise ships had docked.
I mean, and to get the cruise ships, like the 5 days we were there, like there was a different cruise ship almost every single day. And one day there was two, and we were like, no!
That's how it is. We got to share.
The one thing that I think was really interesting about being in the Green Gables house is we were talking to the national park employee, and we're like, hey, so like, what's like a fun fact you can tell us about this room we're in? And he kind of like stops and he points to this giant black cast iron stove. He's like, see that stove? And I was like, sure do. And he said, so in the book, Lucy Maud Montgomery like very specifically talks about this specific stove because it was like a big deal that Marilla has it in the book, and it was the exact same model.
Yeah.
And it's still there.
So, right, they tried to mock up the rooms to fit the book, to really give people a visual. It's like, oh, we've really made the house feel like you're in the real Green Gables house. And
I think for me, like, I have an easy time visualizing places like pre-Civil War, post-World War I. And so being in that house, I was like, oh, like it's way more modern than I expected. Like, I don't know. In my mind, I guess Green Gables is like a medieval stronghold. Like, I thought it was like kind of a cabin.
What?
I don't know. It's just, I didn't think it'd be like a house, like a nice, like wallpaper and,
There was definitely wallpaper. Well, anyway, okay.
God,
we were in the house.
Stupid.
We were in the house. We left the house. They also had, where it's like, go walk the Haunted Wood or Lover's Lane.
Which were real, actual places for fans of the book. So in the book, there's the Haunted Wood that freaks out Anne Shirley and her neighbor best friend, Diana.
Mm-hmm. Diana.
They're freaked out by it. And then Lover's Lane. Lover's Lane, I thought Lover's Lane was going to be like a meadow. But it's like this beautiful forested, there's like a
trail.
There's like a babbling brook through it. It's way more of a beautiful nature trail than Lane. God, it was cool. It was quite romantic though, the Lover's Lane.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have a memory of you talking about just being inspired, of like, it's impressive what this woman did, what this woman was able to create out of her mind based off her reality, and like, comparing it to our own situation.
Yeah, being out there, it definitely was inspiring. And it was an interesting thing for me as a writer to be like, oh, well, this woman, she did the age old, like, write what you know, but she fictionalized it. And so she was able to take her deep love of Prince Edward Island and where she grew up and translated it into a beloved work of fiction that's loved worldwide, which was a surprise to me.
I was surprised at the amount of
international love.
The international love, right? That this was like a big deal, and it was a big deal all around the world. And I didn't realize.
I mean, they had a wall not in the Green Gables house itself, but they had another facility that they had built, like a visitor center.
Right, more museum type, but yeah.
And so they had examples of book covers of Anne of Green Gables from around the world. And there were some wild ones. And it definitely kind of reflected the culture it was being, like, localized for. Like, the German one's kind of dour. Mm-hmm. The Korean one was, like, super whimsical, super adorable.
Like, playful. Yeah, it was definitely a different take. And it was very reflective of what country it was designed for.
The Latvian one was very strange. It was kind of like... a pagan goddess was Anne on the cover, but she had like a crown made of like, I don't know, pine, like a wreath. She was wearing like a wreath crown.
It was also interesting because, Anne's pretty young in the book.
Well, at the beginning of the book. And then she's older at the end of the book. Anyway. Japan definitely featured like a woman, like a painting of a woman.
Right. And it's like, I think some book covers, it was like a really young girl, and some, it was more like a woman, and you just have everything in between. And just what everyone's interpretation was. Anyway.
So when we went through the Haunted Wood eventually, like, it let out and we could see like this old post office that was kind of where Lucy Maud Montgomery grew up. And I'm pretty sure it was where she was writing originally, like in that house. Mm-hmm. But then it also connected, I mean, we kind of left, but there was a park across the street.
Oh, because was her parents, they ran the post office.
Yeah, there was something about that.
Yeah, because she was there and then she was sending out her writing and everyone was like shutting her down. Anyway.
Pretty good, pretty inspiring. So yeah, so there's a park across the street, and it was like honoring maybe like families from the area, but they had a statue of Lucy Maud Montgomery, and it's this like kind of bronze statue, and she kind of like her face is like toward the sun. It's very sweet. But then the cemetery across the street is where she has been laid to rest, and I'm sure. I mean, it's a beautiful spot. I mean, it's like up on a hill, kind of see a bunch of things. I think you can see the water from there. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming she was buried there before it started to industrialize. Mm-hmm. Because across the street from where Lucy Maud Montgomery is buried is a Tim Hortons.
That's right.
Which is probably among the most Canadian sentences you could say.
A Tim Hortons is a coffee convenience. Maybe that sounds right. Coffee and like baked goods. It's a chain, and it's all over Canada.
It's like if a Starbucks and a McDonald's had a love child.
You think so?
With like a convenience store kind of thrown in there.
I know, but I was like, is that comparable to a Dunkin' Donuts? I don't know.
Who knows? They're very chaotic. They're an insane place. So, Lucy Maud Montgomery's like the entrance to this cemetery, there was like this giant like cast iron like resting place of Lucy Maud Montgomery. Her gravesite was like covered in flowers. It was like really well decorated, and yeah, it was really
I was happy that we were able to see these things. It was more than I ever thought we would do
in
there.
Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, because I guess I didn't realize there was such a cult following. There was such a I don't know.
So you're thinking that you were surprised by just how much reverence and in your face like Anne of Green Gables and Lucy Maud Montgomery was?
Yeah, I think that I just didn't realize that there was such a cult following, or like just that, yeah, it was a big deal to more than just me. You know, like it was like a really big thing that they were obviously trying to capitalize on, but something that they were proud of. And of course, you can visit Prince Edward Island, I think, without being wrapped up in that. You know, plenty of people are like, yeah, you know, Anna Green Gables. I've never read it. I'm from here. You know, like
What's up with this Pippi Longstocking looking girl?
Right. They're like, I'm not interested. But I think if you are interested, there's
a place for you.
There's a place for you. And so I think both things can exist. But I was just surprised at the sheer volume of things that you could see and experience, and like that they were ready to enhance your Anna Green Gables desires.
Oh,
I don't know. No, forget that. Scratch that.
That sounds naughty.
That is not what I meant.
So
anyway.
So one of the Anna Green Gables desires that we had fulfilled was the musical, but there's also another musical that happened.
I just want to say I was very satisfied with our experience, that, you know, we like booked it cross-continental and, you know, we made it for. I was really happy with it. Also, one of the ushers gave me...
Yeah, after we had told her after the show about us driving all the way from Oregon.
Yeah, and how much I really enjoyed it. She gave me a little pin.
And it said Kindred Spirits.
And then it made me cry. And I was like, well, this is special. And then I don't even think I could talk to her. I think I'd like tried to mumble kind of like, thank you. And I was like, just kind of like, I'm going to exit now. Okay, anyway, I was very satisfied with our experience. But Jordan... I don't know, give a mouse a cookie. He's never satisfied. So he's like, oh, well, we could go watch the Ann and Gilbert musical.
Hey, I wanted all of my Anna Green Gables desires fulfilled.
And then we were in like a little boutique shop, and this one girl or woman starts talking about how her cousin or niece or something is in Ann and Gilbert and how it's cute, and it's like, if you're thinking about going, you know, it was like, oh, but my kid was freaking out, so we only saw the first half, but yeah, it was really good and you should go. And I was like, I don't know. And Jordan's like, I think we should go.
But hey, we could still talk about it, and I still sing one of the songs from this musical. But that shop that you were in was like, you know, like you said, like a boutique. But yeah, you got this like loud ass like 80s dress in there.
So loud. There's like flowers and maybe like leopard print. I don't know.
It's like Monstera, and not quite leopard, but definitely modern, like black and white like situation going on with like some pink. It's very 80s.
There's a lot going on. But the reason I was like, oh yeah, I'm out of clean clothes. I thought it wasn't that expensive and it would be a nice summery type dress. But then the tag says it was made in Canada, and I was like, what? Anyways, then I had to get it.
Aw. So Ann Gilbert. It was shot. It was on stage like at one of their colleges.
Yeah, like a college. And so I was not expecting that.
Tickets were very expensive.
And so I was not expecting, like... I don't even know if it was through their theater program or who put it on.
So.
I don't know what was going on. I don't even know if we should talk about it.
It's a lot. It adapts loosely Anne of Avonlea, which is the second book, and maybe pulls in some other stuff. Anyway, it's all over the place.
It's about Ann and Gilbert falling in love.
Boo, spoiler alert.
Yeah, like Gilbert has like a whole song where maybe this other girl who's also his student but was also his classmate, because that's just how things worked. It was like, oh, we went to school together and now I'm your teacher.
Some things never change.
They like, he's going swimming but she's stealing his clothes, and during the song he's like getting like bit by lobsters or something. It was like the songs were not great. But then there was this one where like the American boys in Anne's class, and they have this whole song, and it's very kind of like, you know, maritime, vaguely
like,
Irish.
Right. It's like, hey, we're like, you left America or whatever. You're now on the island. And so Jordan has sung this incessantly.
And it goes
a little something like this.
It's like your island, you're on Prince Edward Island, and then
I thought it was you're from Prince Edward Island.
Sure, I don't know, one of those two.
Also, can we just talk about how you're like, oh, how does it go? You know.
I sing it in my sleep.
Anyway, it's a hit.
That's a poor way to wrap up this like Anne of Green Gables conversation. Let's put a little bow on it. So all of the Lucy Maud Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables areas we were in, like,
what was your favorite?
Wow, you really turned that around on me. I liked Lover's Lane. I liked that a whole lot. Also, I was surprised at how remote like the Green Gables house was. I mean, you expect it like these like homesteads to be like, you can't see your neighbors,
right?
But they were like pretty isolated from each other. And I liked that. I also loved that they developed a golf course that butt up right against the national park.
Yeah, that was fine.
I think it was like maybe at the end of Lover's Lane, like if you kept walking and you like look through some shrubs, you're like, oh, hey, we're on hole 7. Didn't like that.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Okay.
What about you? So how did it, I mean, because you've seen a lot of film adaptations of Anne of Green Gables, so you kind of already have like a visual in your mind. So how did it compare?
Well, you mean the whole thing?
The Green Gables area.
I mean, I did like it. I appreciated it. I was happy we went and did it. That I am very in tune to those around us. So it was distracting to, see a tour bus pull up or to just be around other people where I'm trying to, be alone in the haunted wood and take it all in, but that's just part of coexisting, right? And also being a courteous person when you are trying to experience something and maybe thinking about what somebody else is trying to experience. And anyway.
You're like, hey, lady, get out of my shot. I'm trying to do my TikTok dance in front of the Green Gables house.
Yeah. So actually what I really enjoyed is we drove to like a little, I don't even know. We went down like a side road. We ended up going where we like found some swings. And there was like a little picnic area, and it was on the water.
That was the Argyle Shore Provincial Park.
We were there, and that is what Prince Edward Island is in my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like those red shores?
Red shores, and we were like, I mean, I was so into it. I took my shoes off, and I was just barefoot, walking in the grass. And I was right on the shore, and there was just like this like really tall green grass, and the wind was going, and I felt so island, if you know what I mean.
Wow. It was like the contrasts in colors were so severe. It was so beautiful because you had like the bright green grass, you had these like deep like crimson red shores,
sand,
whatever. I mean, it wasn't sand, but whatever the
soil,
right? Mm-hmm. And then like the blue sky, but the erosion is like so severe in that area. Like it must just be like taking all that silt out because like the sea was like red. That was like a weird thing for me. It was like that was intense, especially because I guess it looked like it had just been like high tide, and so
right.
I think when you go it's low tide, you could really like walk out there, but yeah, there was not really any path for us when we stopped by.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was just a lot there was like a lot going on, but also not, right? It's just things were really just beautiful, serene, and I could see where L.M. Montgomery.
You got it.
Wow, that was
done.
Man, I said that really
Montgomery.
naturally. Anyway, where how she could be inspired in that setting, and I think she was very proud of that area, and yeah,
she wrote so many more books. I mean, it's crazy. Like eventually, like they're in like World War I. It's about her like kid or grandkid. It's crazy. There's so many books. When the day we left Prince Edward Island, we left to go to Nova Scotia, and I was like, I'm not driving across that bridge. I'm not paying that toll. We're gonna pay a little bit more money. We're gonna go on the ferry.
We love the ferry,
which we do love a ferry. But before we left, we went to Richard's, stocked up on the salads as we discussed, and then we kept driving. And nearby there was this like big, beautiful, like old mansion type place that's now like a hotel and a spa, and I thought we could get like a couples massage, but no one was really able to help us. And so they had these like beautiful grounds where it's clearly for the guests, but there was nothing that was like, this is guests only. But they had, they had croquet out in the lawn. So, you and I are just
Jordan taught me how to play croquet.
So we played croquet on the grounds of this like beautiful hotel, and then we went and treated ourselves some water, and yeah, that was nice.
That was nice.
But it was right by this other beach. It was like Dalvey Beach or Dalvey. So we went for like our final like little beach walk before we went to Nova Scotia. We're enjoying that. We're enjoying the the beach toy and book library. We're wading in the water. And then as I'm walking, because this is like a pristine beach, like it is beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's really nice.
And so I see like something sticking up. I was like, well, that's a strange shell, isn't it? And I grab it, pull it up out of the sand, and it's a rusty razor blade.
You guys, be careful out there.
And so like my like Oregon coastie was like erupting. I was like, how dare someone leave a rusty razor blade on such a beautiful beach? But then I was really proud. But it was also strange to just be walking around with that gross razor blade for so long. It was jutting out of the sand. Like I could have gotten Canadian tetanus.
This is a call to action, right? Where it's like the oceans and the sand. It's a filter, right? So it's like if there's a shipwreck, if there's all these things, like just garbage. So yeah, we got to do our part and clean it up. So thank you for picking up that razor blade.
You are welcome. So before we left, our car was in dire need of an oil change because we had maxed out on driving across the continent.
Why?
So, I know. Put a couple kilometers on. So we went and got an oil change, had a good time. Had such a good time that, like, some guy we were talking to was like, wow, what a journey you've been on. And then gave us, like, a Mazda notebook and pen.
Yeah, which is pretty nice.
Thank you. I'd rather have, like, I don't know, a new upgrade or something, new tires. Anyway, nice guy. We also, we went to a mall, and you went and got some, like...
Illegal
sunscreen.
That's right. Something that's only... It was, like, an ingredient that isn't legal in the U.S. yet, or something, or...
So I love putting it on my skin and be like, haha, you can't catch me, U.S. government. You'll never find me, U.S. government, now that I'm telling you about it.
Wow.
So that was, like, the end of our Prince Edward Island trip. Obviously, the island, there's so much more we could have done. We didn't go to the Potato Museum. We didn't check out many of the lighthouses. We
did see a couple, and I think just to be in like lighthouse country where you're just like, oh, there's just so many lighthouses. Yeah, they're like little shorties.
Not as short as Cape Mear's lighthouse.
Hey,
but they all have like a white and red motif going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up driving out to where the ferry was to go to Nova Scotia. And there was like this like little shack next to the terminal that was also selling some really good seafood. So
and baked goods.
I know.
Yeah,
stocked up on that, and then
that was a good way to end it.
And then we got on the ferry and off we went and had a really nice time watching Prince Edward Island kind of disappear.
I know. So you guys, PEI, it was great.
Was it worth driving across the continent for?
100%.
Wow. I agree. Thank you for taking me with you and showing me around the island.
Thanks for getting your ass in the car.
Hey, I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to. Try not to be so rigid. So, friends, thanks again for listening to Exploregonians Travel Misadventures podcast. Again, another reminder, we are looking for your travel stories because we do want to share them. So record something, send it in to exploregonianspodcast@gmail.com. Shoot us a DM at exploregonians.podcast on Instagram. Messenger pigeon, send me a letter. If you don't want to read it, you can type something out, and Katie and I or Academy Award winner Adrian Brody will talk forever without his gum because he throws his gum at women.
No.
So those are your options. We will read that for you. Next week, what we're going to do is we are veering away from just covering cities or areas in Oregon, but we are going to touch on an Oregon institution, and that is McMinimans.
Wow.
We've had some wild times, so we're excited to talk about that. Again, when I say no free pub, but this feels like just pub.
I just think
it's pub for the pub, babe.
It is pub for the pub. All right.
They were good to us. We'll be good to them.
All right, here we go.
So, friends, if you want to share this episode to people that you think would enjoy it, that would be super helpful for us, increase our listenership. That will maybe benefit us at some point. Share it, review it. That's all super great. We really appreciate that. And until next time. Go see something cool.
Like potatoes on PEI.
Potatoes on PEI. Your island. You're on Prince Edward Island.
You're from Prince Edward Island, I swear. Look
I
it up.
am not. This is we're doing a quick little pretend thing here.
This is nothing pretend about it.
This is pretend.
Is real.
This is not real. Is this real life? Is
this fantasy? Well, I don't have my headphones on.
I've never had a potato in my life.